Hello everybody. Yeah, it's me. How's it going? I was just saying hi. Look, there I am. Oh no, there's a mirror. Where's my puppy? There she is. There's Molly. Hi, puppy. Good girl. Okay, beach towel. 57. What we're talking about today is oil. Remember we went up front, we're going here, and now we're here. Oil today. So here's the deal, kids. After so many miles of driving this car and so many oil changes and fluid changes in the transmission, differential, all that kind of stuff, I've come to the conclusion, this is my own personal feeling, that you should never, ever, ever run synthetic or any kind of blend in these old engines like this. It just doesn't work. The clearances are way too our clearances are too thick, and the reason is are too big. The reason is the molecular structure of the synthetic oil versus petroleum grade oil. The petroleum stuff is good for lubricating, you know, like certain parts of the engine, where synthetic is better at lubricating other kinds of engines. And these old engines that we have in these old cars, mine specifically, I'll never run synthetic or a blend or anything ever like that again. I specifically run, in this car, I run Valvoline Racing, the VR1 series I run 60 weight because I live in a hot climate. And I like a little extra cushion because of this blower and all that stuff, and I run it fairly hot. Temperatures get to be about like 190. If I'm climbing the hill, maybe 200, but that's at the cylinder head. We've been over that before, but I like to run this thing because of the aluminum heads and the bad fuel that we have. And I'm running 87 octane, that's ethanol, whatever. But that's what we got going on. So I don't run anything other than that in here. And here's the reason. I'll tell you the story. Here's the deal. Story time. Did I ever tell you about the time I was driving this car and I was changing the oil every once in a while? On a regular basis, and I decided to try this stuff, blended high mileage oil. Valvoline makes it. I think Castrol makes it. I never use Valvoline, or I never use Pennzoil or Quaker State. I just don't like running their stuff. I've had bad experiences with it. That's my own personal opinion, experience. But I've tried Castrol and Mobile One and all those other ones. And I tried the Castrol Edge or something that was high mileage for 75,000 miles. It's basically a blend of synthetic and petroleum-based stuff. And I tried it. And when the motor's thick and I fired up, you know, old motor oil, old petroleum grade oil, if you use Lucas or anything like that, that's 100% petroleum. When you pour it out, it's like kind of got a green color, and it comes out there real nice and neat, and it looks, you know, it looks like oil, the way the old oils used to be. And Valvoline Racing stuff is too, with high zinc and all that stuff, for a flat tappet camshaft. If this had a roller, I still would probably run it just because I like the extra in there. They took zinc out, by the way. In the 80s, they started taking them out because it was bonding with the materials in the catalytic converter and plugging them up. So they started pulling zinc out, and about the same time, ironically, they started making, I think the late 80s, they started doing roller lifters, so you wouldn't have that issue with the flat tappet camshafts eating cam lobes, which is why they did that. And then everything else, all the followers eventually went roller for that reason, because they knew that's what was happening. The zinc out of the oil. And then I think in 2000, I want to say it's like 13 or 14, the last zinc was left in. About the time they came out with the DEF powered diesels, in those, about that same time they pulled out the last zinc being in diesel oil. You used to be able to buy it in like Dello 400 or those diesel motor oils. You used to be able to get high zinc in those, and those are they no longer have zinc in them anymore, for that reason, because people were running them in regular cars and messing up catalytic converters. So back to what I found out. So I was driving this car, and this thing would start out 80 pounds cold and settle about 55 hot at idle somewhere, 65 at a cruise, 70 at a cruise, somewhere like that, and about, you know, 50 to 55 hot. And when it got really hot, it would sit like 45, and that's what this motor's always done. And so I put the blend in there, and I ended up with slightly lower oil pressures. And I was thinking, you know, I got like 10,000 miles on this thing at that point. I decided I would try it at the 10,000 mark. I was switching to the 5-speed. I was switching to the other 9-inch, all that other stuff, aluminum drive shaft, all that other stuff that you guys saw. And so I decided I would try that blend, and negative. Not ever doing that again. So what happened was my oil pressure was actually running lower than I wanted it to be. I started noticing it dropping, like at an idle, it'd sit around like 35 or 40. And when it was cold, it'd only get to like 65. And I was like, that's not good. I can't be beating the bearings out of this. And every time I changed the oil, I would check the oil like religiously. I'd look and see if there's any like, swirly marks in the pan. You see like glitter or like, the gray swirl. That's bearing material, by the way. Here's what I was looking for, to see if I was beating, because a blower will notoriously beat the bearings out of a car if you drive it real hard. And you've seen my videos. I had to put a 7,000 RPM chip because I got tired of it bouncing off the 8,000 RPM chip. You've seen the videos. You've seen me feather it at like 7,800, goofing off. Everybody knows this motor runs really good, and I wanted to keep it running good. So the next step is I went to, I think it was Castrol or Mobile One. It was still at the Napa store, and they had a high pressure hot rod kind of an oil. It's listed for like superchargers and turbocharged cars, and it's full synthetic, and it's 5 weight 60. And I thought, I run 60 weight in this, why not try 5 weight 60, see what happens. So I threw it in there, and when I poured it in, it's really runny. Like it went in like and it's kind of brown, like it looked like used motor oil already. And I poured it in there, and it was just brown, and it went in kind of like honey. Well, no, honey's thicker, so more like maple syrup is kind of what it went into, like hot maple syrup. Just kind of ran in there, like the heated maple syrup. It just ran in there, and I thought that's pretty thin, but it's 5 weight, so 5 winter, which is I should do a car quiz today. Okay, car quiz today. What do the designations in motor oil stand for? You got 5W60. What's that mean? Somebody tell me in the comments, and I'll give you your answer on the next video. So I thought the 5W, being thinner, I better not give that away. I thought it would be better. And then 60 weight, when it was hot, it would, thicken up to 60 and act like this. So I checked it, oil pressure. And sure enough, put it in there, fired up nice and cold, and it went to like 70 pounds, not quite the 80. But it slowly was dropping. And then I put about 3,000 miles on that, and I watched it one morning. I went surfing, and I was watching it like slowly drop oil pressure, and it was alarming me. But I thought, it's getting to be about 25,000 miles. Maybe it's time to like roll some bearings in this thing and, pull the pan off and see what's really going on. Because I beat on this a lot, and it wouldn't be uncommon for it to beat the bearings out of it. That's, that could be reasonable. So again, I was checking. So I parked it. I was actually at a surf spot on the other side. You guys just see me sit there. And it was nice and cool. I got in the car afterwards, and I fired it up, and it only went up to like 40 pounds, cold. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And as I was driving it, it warmed up, and at idle, it would drop into like 20, 25. And I was like, that's it. I babied it home, shut the car off. I went and I ordered a couple sets of bearings, an oil pan gasket. And I was like, I don't know if it's standard or 10 under or 20 under. So I was like, I'm going to go look for what bearings. I thought I was going to pull the pan off. And so I ordered oil pan gasket, got one of those one-piece blue Felpro, the one-time only use or the multiple use things. Put that in there. I jacked this thing up, grabbed the jack over there, them stands, threw it up here in the air. And I started, at the same time I bought some Valvoline and a new filter, and I was just going to try Valvoline 60, see what was going on, Valvoline Racing. So I drained the oil, and it came out like, it was black as cat's guts, just like diesel oil, only it came out with the consistency of Coca-Cola. It just poured out of this thing, and it emptied into the pan within a matter of seconds. My oil pan was empty, and it smelled really, really funny. And what I realized what was going on is the synthetic oil doesn't cling to anything. It was staying in the grooves of the crank, like in the bearings and stuff, but the molecules are so small that I think I was getting what's like fluid shear. Like you get an automatic transmission with a torque converter, and if you run too high of a stall speed on the street, you'll burn your fluid, because as one piece of metal is going past another metal, it actually is shearing the fluid, and it's causing tons of friction in the fluid. It heats the fluid up, superheats it. And that's what was going on here. My temperatures were going up and my oil pressure was dropping. And when I drained the oil, there was still no glitter in there. I pulled this filter apart and cut it perfect, like nothing. But everything was saturated with this, just like, it was like black food coloring in water. It was the craziest looking stuff, and it smelled terrible. It looked like, if you guys have ever done the old, when back in the old days when your cars were running like kind of old and you wanted to clean them out, and I would have a lifter noise. All the lifters were chattering, and I was like, this is not good. Even though I did put zinc additive in there, yes, I did do that. And I threw a bottle of Lucas in there at the last minute just because I was like, something's going on. Just to baby it home, I stopped at the store, bought an extra bottle of zinc, threw another bottle of zinc in it, overfilled it, put Lucas in it, so it was like a quart over. And it still, when I got home, it was that runny and that black. But it reminded me of, in the old days, we used to take like a couple gallons of diesel, and we wanted to flush a motor out. We would pour diesel in there, drain the oil out, pour diesel in it, fire it up and run it, let it get up to temperature, and then shut it off. And you'd pull the plug, and all the sludgy black stuff would come out, but it would come out just like water. And that's what this stuff looked like. And so that's what I realized what was going on. The synthetic doesn't stick to anything. And so at speed, it was flung off, and it wasn't there long enough to cool anything or stay on anything. And so when I pulled it apart, no problem. I actually was getting ready to pull the pan off, and I decided I would just put my Valvoline Racing back in there, and I threw the VR 160 weight back in this thing, and bam, 80 pounds hot, and now it's like the same as it always been. The lowest this thing gets is like 50 pounds. And that's when it's like really hot, and I'm climbing the hill, and as I sit at a stoplight at idle, like 800 RPMs, the thing will sit at like 50, 55 pounds hot at like 205 temperature. And I mean, that's because I was kind of flying up the hill, and I push a little bit. Of course, it cools off immediately. The temperature gauge cools off because the cooling system still works even with the leak. But that's it, kids. Don't run synthetic in anything, especially your transmission. If you got a manual transmission, never run synthetic oil in it, because it doesn't stay on the gears. And the same with the differential. In fact, if you buy a custom differential from somebody, they'll tell you specifically, do not run synthetic oil in their differential, because it does the same thing. It will not cling to any of the interior gears or spiders or whatever. It just flies off. If you're racing, it's really good because it doesn't cause drag. But I'm not racing, and most of you guys aren't racing either. But if you are racing, synthetic oils, because it doesn't hang on anything, you don't get any windage. That's it, kids. That is your friendly report. I guess that's it. Oh, I didn't even turn my lava lamp on. Don't look. Don't look at that. That's just embarrassing. There's my puppy. Hi, puppy. Good girl. We're going to go hang out and do laundry.